Okay, there's something out here. Hello and welcome to Squatchspot.com. I'm Darren Smith and we are out in the field again on Goat Mountain near Road 426. Goat Mountain is a mysterious realm to say the least. Some locals caution it is a place to be avoided, especially at night. Strange and unusual things are said to happen here, and the area definitely has an energy of foreboding. Since I've been investigating this area, I have received nearly a dozen reports, some of which were first-hand reports, of Sasquatch being spotted crossing this very short stretch of Road 426 near Bass Lake. And while conducting research in the area, I myself have had some very unusual happenings. I've experienced unexplainable equipment failures on a number of occasions. I have captured some very curious audio recordings that a number of researchers believe may have come from a Sasquatch. On a windless night, while conducting late-night surveillance in the dead of winter, a tree came crashing down in very close proximity to me. I have been told the sounds noted prior to the tree falling suggest that the tree was being pushed over. Sasquatch will often push over trees to try and scare people from an area. I have seen an unexplainable red light while conducting night maneuvers deep in the woods that one of my viewers, Aaron Gemini, suggests may have been red eye shine coming from a partially concealed Sasquatch. I have captured some very curious FLIR footage that bears some uncanny physical resemblance to a Sasquatch, and I have also captured some very unusual ghostly figures on camera. Some locals believe Goat Mountain is haunted, and based on my experiences I have had in the area, I would have to admit there is something very unusual happening on Goat Mountain. The reason I came out here today and this evening, I'm doing some night maneuvers, is specifically because I wanted to investigate the area to see if there's any physical evidence to support that the Sasquatch have moved down from those higher elevations and are down into these lower valleys near North Fork, Bass Lake, and Road 426. And so far, I have not found any physical evidence to support that the Sasquatch have moved into the area. This is the time of year that they should be down in the valleys. However, I have noticed some things that would suggest otherwise. In fact, I noticed that the game trails in the area are kind of overgrown with brush. And as I mentioned on previous episodes, the Sasquatch will often groom game trails to make them easier to traverse when hunting prey or when eluding humans. And as I mentioned before when investigating this area in the past, these game trails have been very well groomed. And that led me to believe that the Sasquatch were in the area. However, on this season, the game trails are overgrown and they are littered with a bunch of brush. So that is one thing that is kind of sticking out that leads me to believe that the Sasquatch are not in the area yet. Another thing that I've noticed when I've been investigating the Goat Mountain area is that there is a lot of logging that's taking place at the moment. It seems that the Forest Service is removing a lot of the dead wood that is a result of the bark beetle, the pine beetle infestation that we've unfortunately been having in California, where literally tens of millions of trees have perished along the California Sierra Nevada mountains. So there is a lot of activity up here. It's very evident that there's a major project taking place to remove a lot of this wood out of this forested area. And this may be another reason why the Sasquatch are at bay. So I am thinking that the Sasquatch are not down in these areas yet, and we may want to consider moving our investigation to another area. But for now, I'm going to continue doing some night maneuvers out here. It is quite cold tonight. In fact, we did have some snow earlier, so I am kind of anxious to get someplace warm, and I haven't detected any animal activity, but I'm not quite ready to call it quits, and I do have quite a trek to take to get back to my vehicle. So I'm going to get a move on here. I've had the FLIR out, I've had the parabolic mic out. There's a lot of wind happening in the area because of this storm front that's moving through, so the parabolic has pretty much been useless. And unfortunately, the forest is really foggy at the moment, so even the thermal is having some difficulties getting some clear images. But we're going to continue some night maneuvers tonight, and we're going to start heading back towards the vehicle. And that's where we're at the moment. I continued making vocalizations and FLIRing the area as I made the hike out, and things really didn't get interesting until I returned to my vehicle. So I made it back to my vehicle, and I am fixing to call it a night here. I think based on my reconnaissance earlier in the day and for this past week, I don't think the Sasquatch have moved down into these lower elevations, or they are steering clear because of the log removal that is happening in the area. Okay, there's something out here. Okay, when I got back to the car, you saw that I was cut off there. I definitely heard a curious sound up here near the car. I absolutely can't identify it. It sounded like almost like almost like a duck, like it could be a deer, but I'm definitely going to hang out here. I was going to pack it in because I am really cold, but I am going to hunker down and continue flooring the area to see if I can find out what that sound was. It didn't sound, I wouldn't say it sounded primate. It sounded almost bird-like, but Sasquatch are masters at making different vocalizations. I'm not really convinced that the Sasquatch are in the area, and based on my reconnaissance of the area, I'm really not leaning to believe that they're down here yet, but I do want to hang out here a little bit longer and continue flooring the area just to see if I can ascertain what made that sound, because it was an interesting sound, and I'd like to know what made it. Though the temperature had dropped dramatically, I remained in the area maintaining surveillance for quite some time, occasionally making vocalizations with the hope of receiving a response. However, the area was quiet, and eventually the FLIR's battery finally died. I never did ascertain what had made the strange sound as I returned to my vehicle, but that's generally how it goes when you hear a strange sound while out in the woods at night. Once in my vehicle, I continued area surveillance by patrolling the desolate roads around Goat Mountain, where Sasquatch are likely to be spotted. However, the remainder of the evening was uneventful. Coming to the conclusion the Sasquatch are not yet in the area of Goat Mountain, I decided to investigate some other areas of interest I've been monitoring, and to do some preliminary follow-ups on some recent sighting reports I've obtained. Mariposa is a very small historic mining town of approximately 2,100 residents that is nestled along a very prominent ridge that skirts the west border of Yosemite National Park. It's located a little over 20 miles northwest of Goat Mountain, and since I moved to this area, I have received numerous reports of Sasquatch being spotted in the area. Today I'm doing some reconnaissance in an area just south of Mariposa, where I received a second-hand report that a woman was claiming she had Sasquatch living on her property. Though at first I was a bit reluctant the Sasquatch would be venturing to this lower elevation so close to town, I must say I was surprised to find the area lush with forested habitat. And I have also received a number of other reports from this general area that does support the Sasquatch are venturing into this area. As mentioned in a previous episode, a number of locals were claiming a family of Sasquatch were living under a bridge just outside of Bootjack, California, along the west fork of the Chowchilla River. This drainage consists of a very steep and rugged terrain, and what I find very compelling is that it runs into an area where I've received another very credible report. An avid outdoorsman was deer hunting one early evening when suddenly out of the forest came a herd of panicked deer, charging towards him, halting abruptly in extreme close proximity to the hunter. The deer appeared to be in a state of confusion and panic, and they quickly ran past the hunter, fleeing desperately. The hunter was certain these deer were being ambushed by a large predator, and although he did not see what had been chasing them, he caught a whiff of a god-awful stench that smelt like rotting meat, and after this commotion, the forest went dead silent. This gentleman says he has been hunting these woods since he was a child, and he never experienced anything like this before, and the experience left him so unsettled, he immediately left the area. Another area I've been monitoring is Jerseydale. Jerseydale is a rural mountain community that sits along the Chowchilla mountain range. The area is comprised of lush forested landscapes, which has an abundance of year-round water sources, and it is home to an array of wildlife. Without a doubt, the most notable area for Sasquatch encounters in Mariposa County is along the Chowchilla mountain range, which borders Yosemite National Park West. Sasquatch frequently use this pass to circumvent the pedestrian traffic of Yosemite. In fact, I have been told that a number of years ago there were so many Sasquatch sightings being reported in this area that local law enforcement shut down access to the mountain. And the following day, the U.S. military showed up and were supposedly running training exercises on the mountain for over a week. As an investigator in this area, I absolutely understand why this location has been a hotbed of Sasquatch activity over the years. Unfortunately, shortly after moving to the area, a very large portion of this mountain range was decimated by the Ferguson Fire of 2018, which burned nearly 97,000 acres. And with the enormous loss of habitat caused by the numerous recent fires along the Sierra Nevada mountains, which resulted in very barren landscapes, I believe the Sasquatch are finding it more difficult to move stealthily through these areas, and I think it may also be the reason for their current absence on Goat Mountain. This being said, I believe as Sasquatch researchers, we can use these barren areas to our advantage. Since the Sasquatch are most likely going to avoid them, we may be able to anticipate their alternative routes, thus bettering our chances of encountering them. I'm Darren Smith, and I'll see you here next time on Squatchspot.com.